of Raise the Banner podcast. I am one of your two co-hosts here right now. Ben will maybe be joining us later. Matt Couture here with JR Mott. JR, how are you doing?
Pretty decent. I'm just dealing with the flu right now. I got a really bad sore throat, but other than that, I'm doing pretty well.
All right, we'll make this nice and quick for you to
Oh no,
to
I'm
get
good. I
your
took some
rest.
medicine, but we'll just.
We're gonna start us off real simple here. We'll talk about the Boston Bruins. They're 7-1. I know, as you all know, JR is a big Bruins guy. Um, through 8 games, this basically has been as good of a start to the season as you could have hoped for. Even the one loss they have is an overtime loss. David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand are, to say the least, carrying the load. They're playing some very good hockey. As a whole, JR, how are you feeling about the team? Uh, what do you like? What are you not liking that you see? How are you feeling overall?
I mean, it's pretty much the same as last week when I talked about it. So I really won't go into crazy detail. Um, I feel the exact same, but uh, I'll just say the things I do like. I like seeing that we're getting offense from the defense still, like shots from the point. A lot of people are we're not really happy about the Kevin Shattenkirk signing in the summer. I like it. He played at BU, go Terriers. But he looks decent. Matt Grizzlick looks really good. Um, Hampus Lindholm starting to look like Hampus Lindholm. Had a slow start to begin the season. He looks decent. What do I not like? Patrick Brown being a Boston Bruin and Derek Forbort still being on this roster. And I just want to see Jake DeBrusk get going because he was amazing all year last year, and he just had a pretty slow start to the year. I think he'll pick it up and he'll figure things out. But it's hard for him that he's not playing with Bergeron or Krejci right now, so he's just got to get used to his new line mates and get some chemistry going. But I think he'll be fine. And Carlo, I'm a pretty big Brandon Carlo hater, I guess you could say. But he's looked really good this year. He's +1 on the year. He has 2 assists and he had 2 assists for 2 points. He's a +1. He's got 2, so he's stayed out of the box. He's helping the offense out by getting shots on net or just getting assists in general. But that's what I like and what I don't like. Have a test tonight. They haven't looked the best to start the year, but it's the Florida Panthers tonight in Boston. It's game 8, as a Twitter user Petrov McGuire says. It's game 8, home ice. We'll get him this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're pretty on point with everything. As we mentioned last week, and it's kind of continued the trend. This is as good as we could have hoped for. We would have taken. I mean, it was 7-1. I think we would have taken
4-3.
5-3. We would have been happy with that. So 7-1. I mean, they're playing some good hockey. Like I mentioned, Pastrnak and Marchand are really carrying the load offensively, especially Pastrnak, which, I mean, that's what you signed him to do. I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to give you 40+ goals. But my little bit of a worry is when he goes into cold stretches, which will happen. Are they going to be able to produce enough offense to compete with other teams? As a whole, we saw Lucci went down, and that's hopefully a short-term injury. But as a whole, their team looks pretty good. I like McAvoy's play so far. Matthew Poitras. I mean, I has the deadline passed on him? They have to decide when does that begin?
Tonight's tonight.
Okay, all right. So yeah, he should be sticking around. That's what it seems like,
Well, if
as
it
he
means
should.
anything, they bumped Trent Frederick up to his line, so looks like
I'll
they're trying to
be.
protect him a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. As you mentioned with DeBrusque, I think how you kind of explained it is pretty spot on. He went from playing with two Hall of Fame caliber players to not having that anymore. So he's going to have to learn to kind of elevate his game. I think he kind of was a beneficiary of being around uh, two great players, and he was kind of that complementary third piece, and which kind of brought his game to another level. So I'd like to see him really look into taking his game, personal game, to the next level and starting to elevate those around him instead of the other way around. The goaltending, I mean, the defensive goaltending has been lights out. I think we were pretty. I think we were both going into the season saying like we can't expect their goaltending to be what it was last year. It
Well, it
was
already
it
looks
was
like it was like that.
yeah, and through 8 games, I mean it looks as good as last year. I mean you can argue better. I forget when I heard the stat. It was a few days ago. So I want to say it was after 7 games, but they had allowed like 14 goals, and the next highest were like 12 goals above them, or something like that. It was like 26-14 between the second lowest and the lowest. That
Over the
is,
course of the season, we've only here I can tell you how many goals. Um, so Jeremy Swayman's sitting at a 1.26 goals against average, and Linus Olmark is sitting at a 1.74. He has just under a higher save percentage as Swayman. Swayman has a 957 and Linus has a 937. Shots allowed is 117 to 111. Saves 112 to 104. Goals allowed 5. Um, Goals allowed 7. Shutouts 1-0. Goals
all
obviously
right. So they're
none.
at, they're at 15 goals allowed. Yeah, so I think that was probably right. I think it was 14 uh, when I saw it, and I want to say the next highest is at 26 or 28.
I think we've
You know,
like allowed the fewest goals in the NHL.
oh no, by I think it was almost like doubled. Like you could double the Bruins goals allowed, and it was matching up with the second lowest. Uh, if they can continue this, which again, like as a combined, they're averaging like 1.5 goals against. Like, do we expect that to continue? That's pretty optimistic.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean that's pretty optimistic.
I'm a cocky goaltending fan because I love Linus Olmark so much. So
If they can play, even if that pushes up a little bit, if they can continue to play good defense and good goaltending, which to Sweeney's credit, that's how he's built this team. He's invested heavy defensively between McAvoy and Lindholm, and even into the second line guys. Like Brandon Carlo and Grizzlick and For. I know you don't like Forber, but
don't get me
but yeah,
started.
no, yeah, they've invested heavy defensively, and it's seemingly paying off. But like I said, my biggest worry really is just when Pasternak goes through a dry spell, are they going to have enough offense?
Yeah, I
Uh,
think they will. I mean, we still have. I mean, you still have a decent bottom six, and they have bottom six really hasn't shown up the best so far. But then again, we're only 8 games into the season for us technically. Um, Pavel Zacha still looks really good. Morgan Geeky looks decent. Patra, like you said, looks. We've said it a couple times. He looks really good. We're gonna get to see Oscar Steen. I think we're gonna see Oscar Steen tonight, and the return of the chosen one is upon us. Mr. Danton Heinen is coming back. It looks like.
I'll tell you, every time I hear the word geeky, I think that it's a nickname. I can't explain why.
His
But
nickname is
whenever
Geeks.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I hear the last name and I'm like, that has to be like that's something that his last name would be like, I don't know, Geekanopoulos. And people are just calling him Geeky. So every time I
Like a
hear it,
Greek
even
boy.
even when I'm watching him play and I see the last name Geeky, I'm like, all right, that's just like I don't know, it doesn't sound like the right last name. But no, I mean, we'll see if they can continue it. Uh, how do you feel as a whole Montgomery's been so far this year?
Good, really good. He's mixing the lines up like he said he was going to. I think he's learned from the Florida series, and he's made adjustments when just adjustments need to be made. Um, I still love the guy. Monty is. I mean, I loved Bruce Cassidy as head coach. But you're just seeing a completely different team under Monty than you saw under Butch. Um, the young kids are flourishing like they should have. Like for the longest time, like people were like, Trent
Yeah,
Frederick is a first round bust because he was always in Cassidy's doghouse, like DeBrusque was. What happens last year? You're seeing Trent Frederick's development blossom. You're seeing the forward that Don Sweeney picked, what he thought Trent Frederick would be when he picked him in the first round. You're finally getting to see why he was worth a first round pick to begin with.
yeah. I mean, I think it was a well-known thing during Cassidy's time, especially in the final year or two that he was here, that his downfall was these young guys were not contributing, and they were almost
Yeah.
getting pushed down by him. And we've obviously seen a big change in that under Montgomery. I think it's kind of fair to say that if Cassidy was still here, you probably don't see Matthew Poitras up here. Uh,
Oh yeah, you don't see
Probably,
Patra.
yeah. So I mean, that's just a very live, like current example of the difference between Cassidy and in Montgomery. Um, I would just like to see. I would say this is more of a question, and this is a little bit of adventuring forward. I just heard it on the radio, and I figured I'd get your thoughts. Let's say they're back in the playoffs. Uh, do you think that they would stick with the goalie rotation in the playoffs, or do you think they'll ride with one goalie again?
I think he learned from what happened this past year in the playoffs, and I think unless Olmark was hurt at the end of the season last year, he got hurt. Something happened with his hip. It's kind of reminiscent of what happened with Tuca a few years back. He had the hip injury and he still played through it in the playoffs. But you could tell something was wrong with Olmark because he was kind of slow getting across his crease and everything like that, and getting down on the butterfly. You could tell something was up. But when you have a season like he had, and he's the clear-cut, like undisputed favorite for the Vezina, it's kind of hard to move off of him until you really have to. And honestly, I was fine with him keeping in Olmark until game 6. Or no, game 5. Until game 5. After game 5, I was like, he should probably put Swayman in. But Olmark was still like Oli was confident that he'd be okay to go in game 6. And they looked fine in game 6. He looked okay, but you could just tell something was wrong. Like just by the way he moved, he looked like he was in pain the whole entire time. But I gotta give it to the guy for playing through injury because everybody's injured come playoff time, some worse than others. And you don't like a lot of people are like excuses, but you don't really find out how bad some of these injuries are until, you know, the series is over, until this complete season is over. So
Yeah, I
I
mean, we saw
think,
that with Bergeron,
yeah,
even Bergeron
punctured
coming
rib and
back.
everything like that.
Yeah, he had something else as well that he played through.
Well, in 2013, he played through a fractured ankle and a punctured lung.
Yeah, what did he play through this year though when he came back?
A
He had
hernia. He had a
Yeah,
hernia
that's
and
what it
stuff like
was. It
that.
was a sports hernia. and those things
Yeah,
are
he had a hernia. He had a hernia, and he had a herniated disc.
yeah, those things are extremely painful to deal with. They're not like so much
It was his
crazy
groin. It was in his
serious.
groin.
Yeah, they're not so much like crazy serious injuries in terms of like it will recover, but the pain
Is
is very,
immense, and
very
they're
real.
reoccurring.
Yeah, they're very real. Um, yeah, so I mean, I'm just interested to see if when at this rate they'll be in the playoffs, but you know, assuming if they can get to the playoffs, if
I think he goes
Montgomery,
with the. I think he goes with the rotation this time. I think he'll
I,
start off with whoever has the hottest hand, but I think, what's it called? I think he'll end up just rotating no matter what.
yeah, I would like to basically, you know, play. Let's just say it's Allmark is the lead goalie at that point. Play him the first two games, assuming he doesn't, you know, doesn't blow up game one. Play him the first two games, and you even if you could be 2-0 in those two games, you need to like kind of take a step back and
Give him some
evaluate and
rest.
see where he is mentally, watch the game tape to see where he is playing on the ice, and at that point say, okay, you know, maybe we slide in Swayman for one of these games because it's just this is such a unique situation where Swayman is. I mean, if you had to put a top like Swayman's a top what goalie in this league, where would you put him?
Top 15, top 10.
Yeah, so like that's kind of what I'm basically saying is you have this really really unique situation where you have one potential two top 10 goalies roughly give or take, and so you know if you need to give one a break, even just mentally, like that mental game off can be a massive factor for them.
This
Um,
is gonna sound like crazy, and I don't mean it in a biased way, and I don't mean it as like a overbearing sports fan way. A lot of people going into the season were still ranking Andre Vasilevsky and people higher than Linus Olmark and Jeremy Swayman. Um, this is completely unbiased. This is going off statistics just from last year alone. If you're putting, if you're gonna put Andre Vasilevsky as the number one goaltender, you're smoking crack because Linus Olmark is by cut and clear the number one goaltender in the NHL currently, not like in the last few years, just currently. I'd say him at 1, Swayman at like 6 or 7, because I mean he's good and Vassie's a really good goaltender. Like the dude's insane. He's won 2 cups for a reason. Like both those Tampa teams were insane. The back-to-back years they won, but they don't win without Vasilevsky.
yeah, I mean I can't really disagree. I still go back to just I remember listening to the Sports Hub and specifically good old Felger Maz after they signed Allmark, and I just remember them destroying Sweeney for the move. Like you just got out from underneath Rasdale, and now you voluntarily throw what was it 4 years 20? I think that's what it was
Yeah.
at Allmark. I remember, and you look at it now, and it's like this guy's on a massive steal of contract.
$5 million.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the number one? What's the highest paid goaltender at right now?
Andre Vasilevsky. Hold up. I can tell you the contracts right now. Just give me.
I know. Rask was at what was it, 8 million?
All right. I can tell you right now. NHL salary rankings 2023. Okay. So here are the salaries for. I'm just going to go off active because Carey Price is making the most, but he's not
Yeah,
playing anymore. Um, at number 1, it's Sergei Bobrovsky at 10 million annual average. Number 2 is Andre Vasilevsky at 9.5 annual average. John Gibson at 6.4. Matthew Murray at 6.2. Connor Hellebuck at 6.1. Markstrom at $6 million, Bennington at $6 million, which is a horrible contract. He was good that playoff run that they won the cup against us, but
So
he's looked horrible.
what number is Allmark ranked in at of the current guys?
You want to know what Allmark's at? He is tied at 14th with Robin Leonard, Thatcher Demko, Jack Campbell, UC Saros at $5 million.
Yeah. So it seems like the heavy core of clears of starting goaltenders get between about 5 and 6.5, and then there's a few that go above that. Bobrovsky being where he is just absurd. Vasilevsky, as you said, he kind of earned his stripes to be at that price range. But I mean, like I said, his $5 million is just huge bargain at this point. This is probably the last year we have both of these together. We've both kind of been vocal that we think it will be Allmark just based off age and contract that they move on from Allmark. But I'm interested to see this final year as a whole. They've started off hot. I'm excited to kind of see them throughout this season and see. I obviously don't expect 7-1 type of hockey year round. I think they have a tougher stretch coming up, but they've certainly exceeded my expectations. I think your expectations. Would you say your expectations have gone into another tier from the start of the season?
I'm still gonna, as a humble Bruins fan, after what happened last year, my expectations are just make the playoffs. Like, if they didn't make the playoffs, I was completely fine with, it. It's bridge year, The young kids are getting some action. They are getting development. These things happen. It's a work in progress. Boy, oh boy, if they make the playoffs and it's they look good, I'm gonna be the most toxic Bruins fan ever. If they can get all the way, man, if they can win that cup,
it will be so bittersweet if they made a run.
Without Bergeron, I'd cry. Yeah. But I think with how close knit this team is, I wouldn't doubt the fact that they'd probably have Bergie there at whatever game it was that they ended up winning the cup. And
I would imagine most definitely he would be. If they ever won it, I would want him coming out on the ice and fuck it, raise the trophy himself.
If there is a must-win game and it's the deciding game, that man better be the banner captain that night. And if they win it, they better put that cup in his goddamn hands, because this is the culture that him and Chara built. Like, this is technically his team still. He's gone.
Do you think there's any scenario in which he'd come back during the season?
No, he's done. Much as you know me, as much as I'd love it, he's my favorite player and he'll always be my favorite player no matter what. He just had a kid again. Like, his body needs time to recover. His dad is very sick. His dad has cancer, and you don't know if, like, you know what I mean? He needs to spend time with his family. But if they do win the cup, that cup better be in his hands above his head on the ice. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I don't care if it's with shoes on. It's just he would be out there too. I would imagine he would be there. Chara would certainly be there.
Char, I could see Johnny Boychuk being there, and Nathan Horton doesn't really do anything with the team anymore.
I can see Krejci even coming back for the Stanley Cup in that scenario. But as a whole, I think we're kind of both on the same page there. We'll jump in to the New England Patriots. Oh boy, they've fallen to 6-2. We both, I think everyone kind of went into this past week with the optimism of, they surprised all of us. If they beat Buffalo, and if they could beat Miami, they would have a path to go on a run. Now, if you ask good old Babs, Spike King, whatever people call him.
You don't mention that name in here. No.
There are some people that are very optimistic still, and I get it because there's a 4-game stretch here where like if they went 3-1, I wouldn't be entirely shocked. But like, man, you gotta like as a fan, you gotta acknowledge the reality, and it's that they're the last place team in the AFC. They're at 2-6. They have the worst record in the AFC. This team just doesn't have that. They're not going to get to that. Um, I would, they got to be sellers here at the deadline. The deadline's tomorrow. We just saw Leonard Williams be traded away. I'd like to see at least a few more people traded away, or a few people from the Patriots traded away here. But what are your overall thoughts on the game, on the current situation, and I guess the trade deadline?
Okay, so I texted you last night, and the thing was like, I hadn't been that mad after a Patriots game this year, since the Eagles game, because that game we should have won that game, but things happen. But that was an absolute disgusting ref show yesterday. That was probably the worst officiated game I've seen all year. I understand the refs were kind of the same last week when they played Philly, but come on, man. Like, there were so many instances where it's like they make a call and it's a horrible call, or the ineligible man downfield, where they're like, oh yeah, Miami had an ineligible man downfield. They're like, oh wait, never mind, no they didn't, and they just take the penalty back. Like,
Oh,
the hit on Devontae Parker,
nuts.
That's unnecessary roughness, 1,000%. I don't care. People are saying, oh, he led with his shoulder. It doesn't matter. He made helmet-to-helmet contact.
The first contact between the two players was helmet to helmet.
And that, in the NFL rulebook, that's a penalty, and that's unnecessary roughness.
It's the definition. It's literally the definition of what the helmet-to-helmet hit is. And we see it all the time. It was one of those plays, like, obviously he didn't really mean to do that, but we see it constantly
If that's the
in the
NCAA,
NFL.
that's targeting, and the guy gets ejected from the game.
Constantly. I remember Mapu had a play early in the year against, I want to say it was Miami. It might have been Miami the first time around.
It was the Miami game, that Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, where Waddle essentially caught it and fell to the like was
when he got concussed.
Back. And Mapu, like, the only reason they made contact was because Waddle fell into Mapu's path of going to hit him, and they called it on Mapu. And at that point, I was like, all right, like, I get it, but like, that was like 100% like an accident, both sides coming into an accidental contact. Here it's not like Parker did anything unordinary to like that made the accidental contact.
He was a defenseless receiver.
Yeah, he turned upfield and the guy hit him. The first contact, and you can slow-mo the replay. The first contact was helmet to helmet. Before the guy even really touched him with his hands, his helmet had already hit into Parker.
And then the entire fumble.
Go ahead.
Then the fumble that they ruled forward progress, they stopped playing and the whistle hadn't been blown yet. So no whistle, that ball comes out. That's a fumble. That's a turnover.
Yeah, I mean, even the J.C. Jackson, the J.C. Jackson PI right at the edge of the end zone was
questionable.
It was so ticky-tacky. It was just like time after time after time where we had these like borderline plays that really shouldn't be penalties. They would happen every time to New England, and basically never to Miami. And that's not, like, I want to make it clear, like, the Patriots got outplayed. Miami out-executed them. Miami has simply more talent. I'm not even going to sit here and say, like, the Patriots lost because of, the officiating. But there's no doubt that it played a factor in the game. and like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Patriots would have won if they had better officiating. But like the game would have probably been closer. Would have given them at least the opportunity to be within striking distance. I mean, Miami essentially got a free 7 points in total. Never mind another turnover on
Yeah.
Mostert, and the few other plays. I know there was a play with like Andrews downfield, um, that they like people were talking online that should have been called, and nope, it was accurate. He was within a lot 1 yard, and then like you said
Only
the
1 yard from the line of scrimmage.
yeah, then like you said the one that they threw the flag, and then everyone's backing up, and they're like, you know what? Never mind, we're not gonna call that. And I remember I'm downstairs with my fiance watching it. And I'm like, when I saw like the announcer goes, oh no, they're changing it. I just literally like bursted out laughing. I was like, this is the most
I was
ridiculous thing I've
I,
seen.
I was over at my friend's dad's house. We were all watching the game together, my good friends and I, and one of my best friends. It was funny. He was like, "This dude lives in Miami. He's giving him the game. He's giving him the game." And I was like, "He's spot on though, because I mean, like, if you look at it from that point of view, it's like every call that wasn't even a penalty was going against the Patriot. Like the dude was like gave Miami the game, and like you were saying, officiating wasn't the main reason they lost. If I had to rank them 1 through 3, didn't execute, undisciplined, officiating. Officiating would be dead last because you can blame it on the officiating if you're executing the game how you should be, being properly disciplined as a team. But what you can't, when your offense isn't doing anything and your defense is on the field the whole time, basically, it's kind of hard to lose. It's kind of hard, to lose the game because of officiating. You're not playing as well as the other team. And yeah, the refs handed Miami some penalties, and I agree. And if you look at it from that point of view, like, yeah, you could definitely see it's like it looks rigged. Like it did look. Some of those things it looked rigged, but non-biased, just like as a fan of football in general, New England didn't show up. They showed up for the first couple. They showed up for the first quarter, and then they disappeared again, like normal. But it's weird. It's like they actually do decent in the first quarter, and then just disappear again. And then now we've lost Kendrick Bourne, so it's like we're down Christian Gonzalez. We don't have Matthew Judon. I'm surprised Keon played yesterday. Josh Uche is being held out. He's probably going to get traded, and if he's not, it's because he actually is hurt. Um, Marcus Jones is hurt. So we have a banged up team, and we have an offense that can't score points. Partially, majorly, because of personnel. I think people want to say Bill O'Brien's a horrible offensive coordinator. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't called the best games this year, but when you look at it, what does he have to work with? Like, I think, I haven't looked at the NFL rankings recently, but if I had to guess, we're either last or first or second to last with the worst skill position grouping in the NFL.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we have the worst overall offensive talent. Um,
The only
in
positive
terms,
is
I mean, the
Ramondre
Bill
looked like
O'Brien,
Ramondre again.
the in terms of O'Brien comment, like, here's the thing: if Bill O'Brien went and was the head coach of, let's just say, Minnesota right now. Oh, excuse me, he was the OC in Minnesota, and with Mac Jones as a quarterback in that offense, because I know we played the hypothetical with Kirk Cousins going down. Um, it was thrown around. The idea has been thrown around that Mac could go to Minnesota. So hypothetically, let's say it's Mac and O'Brien in Minnesota with that offense. Are you telling me that the Minnesota offense isn't going to look pretty good?
It'll look crazy. Even with Jefferson now, Addison's a really good
Yeah,
receiver,
like
and
they
it
would look
showed
good.
yesterday.
If you put O'Brien, if you gave O'Brien the offensive talent that Miami has, Miami's offense would look good. You know what I mean? Like the offensive coordinating, it's an interesting concept because you can be bad at it. We saw you could be very bad at it last year, and there are certainly levels of like what makes one guy better than the other. I mean, Shanahan, McVay, they have great offenses. Um,
LaFleur with Rodgers looks like a fraud.
Yeah, and so we're seeing like no matter how much you want to put offensive coordinator like that job on the hot seat, it's like if you don't have talent, it's never going to be highly successful. You
No,
can't turn rubbish. There is not a single offensive coordinator in this league that could turn mediocre, like all around mediocre talent into top like performance.
well, also doesn't help that our development coaches, like our position coaches, aren't the best. Like Troy Brown, great receiver when he was in the NFL, especially for the Patriots. As a coach, horrible. You know, I will
Well,
I I will say this: our tight ends look good this year.
Will Lang, that's a it's a Bill
Yeah,
O'Brien
that's a
guy.
Bill O'Brien guy. Yeah,
Uh, yeah, but like I said, it's when you don't have the talent. I mean, you're seeing it a little bit in San Francisco the last 3 weeks where they have a ton of talent around Purdy, but like Brock Purdy he is a average, maybe a little bit above average overall quarterback that is in a phenomenal situation with a phenomenal coach and phenomenal talent, and it's making him look like a top 10 quarterback.
I'm gonna make this point. I brought it up with somebody the other day. I was talking to them at my work, in my job. They're a Niners fan, and I was talking to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like some like, oh yeah, Bailey Zapp." They were like kind of like ragging on Purdy, and that's when I was like, "Listen, Brock Purdy could come in and do exactly what Bailey Zappi did last year. Bailey Zappi's not walking into San Francisco and doing what Purdy's doing because Purdy has no arm strength. Purdy or no, what's it called? Purdy has arm strength. Okay, sorry. Zappy doesn't have arm strength. He doesn't have that good of an accurate. Like he's not that accurate. He has some touch, but he doesn't have that much arm strength, and he's not that accurate. Brock Purdy has decent arm strength and is pretty accurate. So I don't get the people that are saying, "Oh, you put any quarterback in that system and they're going to flourish."
No, it's certainly not any. Well, we're seeing right now that like I think Purdy's in a decent starting quarterback. In the last 3 games, he's looked pretty bad
It's
overall.
weird. It's weird because this all has started since that big narrative that came out. Remember, like everybody like on Twitter and everything was talking like, "Oh yeah, Brock Purdy sucks." Like everybody on like sports, like television and everything were like, "Brock Purdy's a product of Kyle Shanahan. He's not a. It's the offense isn't a product of Brock Purdy." And ever since that whole thing happened, he hasn't looked the best. I'm I've been a Purdy defender. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I could say he's top 25, top
Oh
20.
yes, yes,
I don't,
yes. That's why I say
but
he's average. He's probably in like the 15 to 20 range for me. And just Shanahan and the weapons around him, and we could kind of bring it back on point. Is that like when you have good weapons and good coaching, it's
quarterback
gonna elevate.
flourishes.
Yeah, the quarterback flourishes. So like we could play the hypothetical of if Matt went to San Francisco right now, how would he perform? The answer, and like I'm not going to say, oh, he would be a top 10 guy, blah blah blah. The answer is he would be significantly more successful. Just like there's no doubt about it. And I'm not saying that means he's going to be top 10, but like he would look. The question wouldn't be, okay, are we trading Mac Jones to Minnesota? Like you wouldn't. That wouldn't be a question that you'd have it for him. You'd be having him. Is this a guy like this is the guy that could be here for the next 5 to 10 years longer? And so I'm like, this just is it's just so blatantly obvious. And to go back onto the Patriots, like they don't have enough talent. And now you lost Kendrick Bourne, who, we've been vocal. I've been vocal about the fact that when he's your leading top guy, you're in trouble. Uh, he's been pretty solid this year, but the fact of the matter is that they just lost him, and now your leading receiver is a guy that got benched because he fumbled one time in week 2 as a rookie.
Who happens to be a 6th round pick.
Don't get me wrong. I really like Douglas. I
Oh, I
really
do
like
too.
what I see. I think
He's the
he's
best. He's the
fast,
best offensive
quick.
player on our team.
Oh yeah, I think he has. And this is like trying not to be, I guess, like a homer a viewpoint of it. Like I'm not going to say he's going to be the next Antonio Brown, type of player.
He looks
But
like him though, a
like
lot.
yeah, like he has the traits to be very good in this league. You don't, you really can't. Not you can't teach. You can't teach quickness and speed in the NFL. You can't.
You can't teach
And
separation. You can't teach how to be
no,
fast. That's just
and
natural.
to I guess pivot into Belichick this morning, and they asked him, like, does watching Hill and Waddle make you want to add speed and like stuff like that? And
Yeah,
of course,
yeah, speed
Belichick
on the
gave,
offense. Yeah,
yeah, he was like, yeah, we have speed, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
It's
we
like, all
we got a
right, well,
fast
you
player.
know what? You're right, Belichick. We do have speed on the offense. There is speed on this team, but you just benched him for Devontae Parker and Jalen Rieger. You benched him. You benched your fastest player. So instead of trying to have your second round pick to see if he's the guy, you benched him. You took out speed and you put in a 30-year-old receiver that you just gave an extension to, who is dead last in separation. And when he's supposed to be the guy to go get a jump ball, he can't do that either.
Probably won't
Uh,
see him this week.
yeah, and
Probably won't be seeing Devontae Parker this week or next because with his injury history, a concussion keeps him out 3 to 6 weeks.
yeah, I don't know. I'm very frustrated by it all.
And your second fastest receiver on the team has been in the doghouse since the first week of the year.
Yeah. We don't even get into Butte, I guess, but the fact is that they're 2-6. I would like them to see. I proposed 2 trades in an article I released last week. One of them was to send Josh Uche to the Falcons. Uche in a 6 for a third. I had seen, I think it was Doug Kyde today. I think he's with the Boston Globe now. Reported that a third or a fourth round pick is probably his price range. So I think that third for Uche and a 6 is pretty reasonable.
Well, Leonard
Um,
Williams going for a second. I mean,
yeah, they ate his contract, but you got to consider that Uche doesn't have any bit of his big salary right now. So I think a third for Uche and a 6 is very reasonable, is very doable. Uh, they just lost. The Falcons specifically just lost.
Brady Jarrett,
Yeah, Grady Jarrett. I was having a mind
ACL.
blank. I wanted to say Jenkins, but yeah, no. Their interior defensive lineman just went down. Even before that, they ranked in the bottom 5 in sacks. I know San Francisco wants to add an edge rusher. Uh, I mean, I would be calling these teams. I'd be calling Atlanta, see if they want Lawrence Guy. I'd be calling Atlanta,
Oh
see
no,
if
no,
they
no,
want
no. I
Uche.
would keep Lawrence Guy. Send Davon Godshow's ass out.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that they're going to be taking that type of that contract. Lawrence Guy's a low money guy that they can plug and play to try to win now and get him for cheap. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, like Lawrence Guy, Josh Uche, Adrian Phillips. I mean, I would trade Duggar for the right
Kyle
price.
Duggar, please.
I want him here. I like him. I think that they should re-sign him. That was another thing in that article. Was a 3-year, 36 million extension, including incentives. It would have been a base around 30 million, which just for facts that would put him around 13th to 14th in the league at the highest paid safety. Which
Well, here's the thing. He's trying to get the bag, and the article I read said he'll either get it in New England or he'll walk. If he doesn't get the price he wants, he's gone.
yeah, I mean that's very much could be the case. My problem is I don't know if teams. There are 2 factors. One, teams have continuously seen Patriots players. They sign Patriots players and then they
And they
suck
don't
on the
do
other
anything.
team. So I look at that factor, and there has to be buyers beware at this point. There has to be, especially after J.C. Jackson. And on top of that is the fact is Duggar's not great defense. in coverage. He's
Oh,
not.
he's dog shit in coverage.
That's not his game. And like that's fine. That's why he's not. If he was solid, not even great. If he was just solid or
Decent,
average in
decent.
coverage, he would be getting. Oh my God,
50 million.
Who was the guy that was in Cincy last year that just signed with
Jesse
Atlanta?
Bates.
Jesse Bates. I was gonna say Bird in my head. Uh, Jesse Bates. He just signed for like 16 million per. Like if Duggar was good, and I know they're a little bit different type of safeties,
Jesse
but
Bates, the free safety.
yeah, they're different type of safeties. But I'm talking about just overall level of
Oh,
talent
coverage.
and where
Yeah.
you'd be if Duggar was just decent in coverage. Combine that with what he could do playing downfield and in the box, he would be a 15 to 18 million dollar a year guy. But the problem is he's not, which is why I put him in that. I think he could maybe get 13 to 14, maybe, but that's why I mocked it at a 10 base with incentives up to 12, 22 guaranteed. Maybe you have to give him 4 years instead of 3.
I don't think he'll take that.
I don't.
Because
Maybe not.
he'll see what Jesse Bates got last year, and he'll be like, "Oh, I could get that much."
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I don't think he can realistically think that he's on that level.
Players
As
always think they're on that level.
Yeah, but their agent has to be like their agent's job is to kind of give them that feeler of.
Who's his agent? Is it Rosenhaus?
I don't know off the top of my
Because
head.
if it's Rosenhaus, I could see him staying with the Pats. If it's not, I could see him walking for whatever his higher offers.
Um,
Because we do a lot of good business with Drew Rosenhaus. I'll give Bill that. Except the
I can't
whole
find it
John
off the
thing.
top of my head, but I mean, either way, like I want to keep him around. I would prefer to keep him around. But again, if someone came and offered me a second round pick for him, I mean, I would consider it. I would certainly consider it.
I don't hate the guy. I just think he's massively overrated by this fan base. I think he's a decent, strong safety who lacks talent in coverage, but makes up for it in his tackling ability.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think he's a good, strong. I don't think he's a decent. I think he's a good, strong safety. I think he's a very good player inside the box. He's a great tackler, and he's a good
Well, he's really good when they bring the nickel defense out.
Yeah, he's good in space.
He plays
But
great in the nickel.
this is the prime example of a player that is playing well in New England, and that's why I think that like. I mean, it happens year after year, so I guess like there's gonna be. It only takes one team to be willing to do it, but you have to look at him and say, I'm not gonna give him, say, 4 years, 60 million, and then ask him to do something else. So if you're going to pay him, you have to be willing to let him do what he's doing in New England because that's the best version. And I think even this year, New England's had to kind of ask him to do a little bit of different stuff without McCourty there now.
They're asking. He's having to freelance a little bit more because no DMAC.
Yeah, and that's kind of pushed down his. People are saying he's not playing that well this year. And overall, I understood it's because they're asking him to do a few different things. He had an outstanding game yesterday, shining through
He had a good game. He had a really good game.
an abysmal day for New England. But I would give him an extension. I've been back and forth on Onwenu. I would
I'd
give
keep
him an
on when you.
extension.
I'd keep him.
I would
I'd
give
keep
him.
him.
I would give him the extent. Yeah, but I'm not paying him to be a guard.
You pay him to be a tackle. I don't
Okay,
want him playing
that's
guard.
fine. That's fine. If you want to pay him to be a guard tackle, sure, go ahead and do it. But I'm not paying him. I'm not paying him to be a guard. I'm not paying him 15 million to play right guard. So if they want to pay him to be a right tackle, and he's willing to be a permanent right tackle, then sure, maybe. But like
That's what he prefers playing.
at the same time, I think what I think the most likely scenario is they're going to tag him, and they're going to either do what Tooney they did with Tooney and just
They're gonna pull a
tag
Tooney
him,
again.
tag him and let him walk. Because now think about it, they have a shit ton of money to spend this year, so comp picks aren't going to be really on the table. But if they tag him next off season and he walks,
They'll get a comp pick.
they could get a comp pick. So I could very much see that being the case.
Well, the
Or I
only
could
thing
see them.
is we won't get that many the next season either because we still have a lot of money the following year as well.
Well, it
And if we don't
depends.
spend it all, it'll roll over.
Yeah, it depends what they. Yeah, but I'm not worried about like 2 years from
Yeah.
now. You know, I'm just gonna focus on that. But the other option is, they tag them and they trade them for a second round pick, something like that.
Would you? Okay, so say if they tag him, okay, and the Bengals tag T, would you be willing to do a swap and then draft a tackle?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I could see that happening. Because I know the Bengals might just let T walk, but there's been
They
rumors
won't
that
let him walk for nothing.
they'll try to
They'll
tag and trade
yeah,
him.
they'll tag and trade him. They'll tag. They may tag him and play out the season and then tag him again and then trade him. Who knows? But uh, Onwenu is a guy that could go either way. If a team offered me a second for him right now, like I would consider it. Devontae Parker, I
He's
would
the
say,
only player I don't want to move. I love Big Mike.
I would say to ship Parker out here, and if you get really anybody that's willing to take his money, I would. But now without Bourne, they have basically no one else. But I would still ship Parker out if any bit of the right deal, which I mocked him for a seventh. Uh,
I'd take a seventh. Just
yeah,
get him out of the door.
yeah. Um, Offensively, Mike Gesicki. If someone offers me I don't know, sixth round pick, fifth round pick, like
He's been
sure,
pretty underwhelming this year.
take him. Well, they're just not playing him that much because Hunter Henry's the main guy. Uh, Gesicki could be gone. Andrews or Strange, they're not going anywhere. I don't see Trent going anywhere. Um, I think realistically, the most likely scenario is they keep Trent for one more year. That they extend him.
Give him
They,
just another 1 year deal.
or even a 2 year deal. Like he's playing good football. Like that's the fact of the matter. He's playing really good football. He's a little banged up right now, but he's playing good football.
Poor guy
Uh,
could barely walk off the field
if
yesterday, they
if
said.
you could get any type of deal, any type of return really for Zeke, get rid of him. I think he's been decent for us this year, but he's 28. He's a 1 year guy, and get rid of him if you get the right price.
The one player on defense I really want them to keep, and I think he's a free agent this year. I don't know if he is for sure or not, but same draft as Uche, Anthony Jennings.
Yeah, I think he would presumably be a free agent after this year.
I'd be more than happy to keep him and let Uche go through trade or walk.
What
He's
I
looked better than
and
this
this
year.
this is part of why I say like I want to trade Uche, and I'm a big Uche guy. I was a huge fan of his out of college, and I think the Pats aren't using him enough. But if you trade Uche, and yes, Jennings is a free agent. Um, if you trade Uche, you can give Jennings more playing time. Hell, you can even turn and try to extend Jennings right now. If you offer Jennings 2 years, 6 million,
He'd stay.
I think he would be taking the safe bet because I think he could
He's betting
play
on
without.
himself.
If he bet on himself, he got playing time, he could earn more this year, in the
Yeah.
offseason. But if you offered him a 2 year, $6 million deal, like I could see him sticking around.
He
That would
loves Gerard Mayo, apparently. Like, he loves playing for Gerard Mayo.
yeah. So I mean, as a whole, and we could kind of wrap it up here, but as a whole, I like they have to be sellers. They have to be. I would
And if
trade.
they don't trade anybody, it's whatever. But they should. They should. They kind of to set themselves up for next season, they kind of have to. In a
But
way.
they want to maximize, not so much set, if they just want to maximize their ability to be a contender next year, the answer is to trade. Like, if you traded Uche for a third here, like, not only does it give you a third round pick, but, like, in the event that you want to then go and turn that third round
Gives you
pick into
ammo.
into another trade, whether it's a trade up for a wide receiver, a QB, a tight end, a tackle, whatever it may be, whether you wanted to trade that pick again in the offseason for a player. Like,
What would you do Uche for Judy?
yes, I've mocked it. I've thrown that
I
out
think
online.
they should do that.
I think I've thrown that out online. I think, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be a 1-for-1. It could be trade a third for Judy and then trade Uche for a third somewhere else. Like, you know, what I mean, just if you you know what I mean. If you traded
Uche to Atlanta for a third and then use that third to get Judy.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
It's a free third
I
round
would
pick to
do
use.
that. This is, I mean, Kendrick Bourne being gone is even another reason to get Judy. And I know a lot of people have come out and said, you know, I don't want to trade for Judy because it's about tanking. Like, I get it. I want to
It's
talk
about tanking for this year, not next year.
yeah, I would like a top 5 pick, but like people need to recognize the need for talent. And if you have the chance to get a talent right now, and this isn't to say Judy's like some superstar, but like he's a legit talent at wide receiver. That's just a fact. He's a legit talent at wide receiver. And if you have a chance to get it, you don't go, you know what? No, it's not the perfect timing. I don't want him. Let's not do this right now. Like if you have
Because
the
who knows
chance,
if he's going to be there come
exactly.
post
Just
Super
go
Bowl.
get him. Go get him. And how, you know, see what the connection is there over the final. What are we're 8 games, so final 9 games of the season.
Mac played with him at Bama.
Yeah, like see what could be there, and like go and get him. So yes, I would 100% do that. But you know, we'll wrap it up there. Obviously, the trade deadline's tomorrow. I think this is just gonna. I'll just turn this into one episode. I'll do a as a pre-deadline.
I just want to say one thing before you end this because I had to jump out last week.
Good.
Shout out John Henry for making the right choice.
I agree. Oh yeah. I mean, you didn't have your thoughts there.
I broke the news. I turned on my TV as soon as I was watching Red Sea or not Red Sea Radio, but it was another Red Sox guy. He had a live stream up, and then like within seconds of turning on the TV and clicking onto that, he's like, "Holy shit! The Sox got Breslow."
I mean, I've given my point, and I know Ben and I will discuss it more, but you know for who they interviewed, and there was I don't know if Breslow was my number one. He wasn't my number one guy going into
He was
the
like
offseason.
my number 4.
Yeah, but you know for who they interviewed, I was all in on him among the options that were there. I think
it was him or Thad or Tad.
I think he screams the next good GM. The problem is it's a little risky because he's a little bit of an inexperienced guy. But the fact is he is very intelligent. Theo Epstein has raved about him.
Disciple, alumni, Red Sox alum have raved about him too.
Don't think they didn't call Theo Epstein and get his thoughts on him. And they talked to former players like Pedro and Ortiz and all those guys. I think it was a good hire. You could kind of say ownership lucked out a little bit, but it was a good hire.
Ownership lucked out, yes, but I think for the first time in a long time, John Henry did something very good.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think I kind of give him the luck out because like if Breslow said no, the other options were I don't know, just Thad Levine would have been decent, I guess. Like I would have been like okay.
Breslow's the guy though.
Yeah. But I'm really excited about Breslow. I did a write-up on him on Belly Up. You can read that. But as a whole, you know, I'm excited about what they bring in. And we'll obviously, it's October. The World Series is on right now. And maybe in about 1 to 2 weeks, probably mid-November, we can start some real, you know, Red Sox off-season talk.
I think it's the day after the World Series you can start to talk to players.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, things don't usually pick up until December, so you know we.
But you can
probably
start contacting.
Yeah, you can. We'll jump into it probably maybe even next week, but All right. Any final thoughts as a whole?
I hope the Patriots sell. I hope the Bruins win tonight, and I just hope the Celtics look good too. I mean, 2 comeback wins, so I hope they win again, and yeah, well, they're probably gonna win because I think they play the Wizards either tonight or tomorrow night. So
Yeah, they play tonight. Yep.
yeah, they play in DC, I think.
Porzingis makes his long-awaited return to Washington. uh,
Just
yeah,
hope
no,
Jordan
that's
Poole
as a
doesn't see the
whole.
baddies on the court side.
You can find JR on Twitter or X at what is it, Theory RTB.
Yeah, my app just changed to X now. It's no longer the bird.
Oh, that's a long time. Mine's
It
been the X
automatically
for a
it just
while.
updated for me the other day.
You can find me at Matt Couture 5. For now, that will be it. I'll be back with Ben. I think we'll do a post trade deadline conversation, and then we'll jump into some Red Sox and Celtics. But for now, thank you guys all for listening, and be sure to tune in. Well, I guess later this week and in the week after that for JR's return here. So
And check
thanks
out the
for.
pod on YouTube now too.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. Yep, at Raise the Banner podcast. You can come see our beautiful faces, and I know that you guys want to see that. So,
Oh, we're
thank you guys
we're the
for.
hottest men alive.
Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next time.